They threw Keanu Reeves out of our restaurant like he was nobody. The owner pointed at the door and said, "We don't want your kind here." But one waitress saw what no one else did. And what she did next didn't just save his night, it changed her entire life. What happened in the next 30 minutes will restore your faith in humanity. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell me, where are you watching from right now? And if you've ever been judged unfairly, this story is for you. It was a cold Thursday evening in downtown Los Angeles. The kind of night where the city felt both alive and lonely at the same time. Neon lights reflected off wet pavement. People rushed past each other without a second glance, and tucked between two glass towers was a restaurant called Prestige, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths that cost more than most people's rent. It was the kind of place where you needed a reservation 3 weeks in advance, or a last name that mattered. The owner, Marcus Holt, was a man who measured success in dollar signs and status symbols. He wore Italian suits, drove a Bentley, and treated his staff like props in his personal stage show. His philosophy was simple. If you can't afford to be here, you don't deserve to be here. That night, the restaurant was packed. Politicians, actors, CEOs, everyone who thought they were someone. Marcus moved through the room like a king inspecting his kingdom, shaking hands, laughing too loud, making sure everyone saw him. But outside, standing near the entrance in worn jeans, a faded jacket, and a black beanie pulled low over his messy hair was Keanu Reeves. He wasn't there for attention. He'd just finished a long day on set, tired, hungry, and craving something warm. He saw the glow of the restaurant, heard the soft hum of conversation inside, and thought, maybe just a quiet meal. He walked up to the glass door and stepped inside. The warmth hit him first. Then the stares. A hostess in a sleek black dress looked him up and down like he just walked in from a homeless shelter. "Excuse me, do you have a reservation?" "No, I was hoping for a table." "Just me. Anything available is fine." She hesitated, glancing toward the back where Marcus was standing. "I'll check with the manager." Keanu nodded politely and waited near the entrance, hands in his pockets, unbothered. But Marcus had already noticed. He excused himself from a table of investors and walked over, his eyes narrowing as he took in Keanu's appearance. No designer clothes, no entourage, no flash. To Marcus, that meant one thing not worth his time. "Can I help you?" "Just looking for a table, if you have one." Marcus glanced around the room. At least 3 tables were empty. But he smiled coldly and said, "I'm sorry. We're fully booked tonight." Keanu looked at the empty tables, then back at Marcus. "Looks like there's space. Those are reserved." "All of them?" "Yes, all of them." There was a pause. The kind that makes a room feel smaller. Keanu didn't argue. He just nodded. "All right, no problem. Have a good night." He turned to leave, but Marcus wasn't done. "Hey, next time, maybe try somewhere more suited to your budget." The words hung in the air like poison. A few customers glanced over. Some smirked. Others looked uncomfortable. Keanu stopped at the door, his hand on the handle. He didn't turn around. He didn't respond. He just walked out into the cold. And that should have been the end of it. But standing near the back of the room, holding a tray of empty glasses, was a young waitress named Elena. She was 24. Hardworking. Quiet. The kind of person who noticed everything but said very little. And she had just watched the whole thing. Her hands tightened around the tray. Because unlike everyone else in that room, she knew exactly who that man was. Elena stood frozen for a moment, her heart pounding. She'd seen Keanu Reeves before, not in person, but in interviews, documentaries, stories people shared online. The man who gave millions to charity. The man who took pay cuts so crew members could get raises. The man who rode the subway, ate lunch with strangers, and never acted like he was better than anyone. And Marcus had just humiliated him. She set the tray down on a side table and made a decision. Without asking permission, without thinking about the consequences, she grabbed her coat and ran out the door. The cold air hit her like a slap, but she didn't stop. She scanned the street, left, right, and saw him, walking slowly down the sidewalk, hands still in his pockets, shoulders slightly hunched against the wind. "Sir, wait." Keanu turned, surprised. Elena jogged up to him, breathless. "I'm so sorry about what just happened in there. That was wrong, completely wrong." Keanu smiled gently. "It's okay." "Really? No, it's not. You didn't deserve that." He studied her for a moment, her honesty, her urgency. "What's your name?" "Elena." "Well, Elena, I appreciate you saying that. But you didn't have to come out here." "I know. But I wanted to." There was a pause. Then she said something that surprised even herself. "There's a diner 2 blocks from here. It's small, nothing fancy, but the food's good and the people are kind. If you're still hungry, I'd be honored to buy you a meal." Keanu's expression softened. "You don't have to do that." I want to. He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something rare. Genuine kindness. All right, he said. Led the way. They walked together through the quiet streets, past glowing storefronts and scattered puddles. The diner was called Rosy's, a little corner spot with vinyl booths, checkered floors, and the smell of fresh coffee. When they walked in, the owner, an older woman with kind eyes and flour on her apron, looked up and smiled.
Elena, back already?
Hey, Rosy. Just grabbing a late bite with a friend. Rosy glanced at Keanu, did a double take but said nothing. Just smiled wider. Sit anywhere you like, honey. They slid into a booth near the window. Elena ordered 2 coffees and a plate of fries to share. For a while they just talked, about life, about work, about how strange the world could be. Keanu asked her questions, real questions. Where she was from, what she wanted to do, what made her happy. And Elena, who usually kept to herself, found herself opening up. She told him about her dreams of becoming a writer. About how she worked double shifts to pay rent and save a little each month. About how hard it was to keep hope alive when the world kept telling you that you weren't enough. Keanu listened, not like a celebrity, like a person, and when she finished, he said something she'd never forget. The world doesn't decide your worth, Elena. You do, and from where I'm sitting, you're doing just fine. She felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them away. Thank you. That means more than you know. He smiled. Thank you for reminding me that kindness still exists. They sat there for another hour, talking, laughing, sharing stories. And when the bill came, Keanu insisted on paying. You invited me. I'm paying. Absolutely not, Elena. Nope, he laughed. All right. But next time it's on me. Next time, if you'll have me. She grinned. Deal. As they stood to leave, Keanu paused. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you do it? Why did you come after me? Elena thought for a moment. Because I've been that person. The one people look past. The one they think doesn't matter. And I never want to be the person who makes someone else feel that way. Keanu's eyes glistened. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small card. Here, my assistant's number is on the back. If you ever need anything at all, you call. Okay? Elena took the card, stunned. I don't know what to say. Just say you'll keep being you. She nodded, unable to speak. They said goodnight, and Keanu walked off into the city. Elena stood there, holding the card, her heart full. She had no idea that this was just the beginning. Quick pause. Type keenness in the comments if you believe small acts can change lives. The next morning, Elena walked into Prestige for her shift like any other day. But the moment she stepped through the door, she knew something was wrong. The other staff members avoided her eyes. The hostess whispered something to a busboy and they both looked away. And then Marcus appeared, his face tight with anger. Elena. My office. Now. Her stomach dropped. She followed him to the back, past the kitchen, into a cramped room with a desk, a filing cabinet, and a single chair. He didn't offer her a seat. You left your shift last night. Without permission. Without notice. In the middle of service. I was only gone for a few minutes. You abandoned your post to chase after some vagrant we rightfully turned away. Elena's jaw tightened. He wasn't a vagrant. And you had no right to treat him that way. Marcus leaned forward, his voice low and venomous. You don't get to tell me how to run my restaurant. You're a waitress. You serve, you smile. You stay in your lane.
That's it.
I was being human. You were being insubordinate. He opened a drawer, pulled out an envelope, and slapped it on the desk. You're fired. The words hit her like a punch. What? You heard me. Clean out your locker. You're done. Elena stood there, her mind spinning. She needed this job. She needed the money she needed. But then she remembered Keanu's words. The world doesn't decide your worth. You do. She picked up the envelope, looked Marcus dead in the eye, and said, I feel sorry for you. Excuse me, you have everything. Money, status, power, but you don't have kindness. And that's the one thing that actually matters. She turned and walked out, her head held high. For the next 2 weeks, Elena struggled. She applied to every restaurant, cafe, and bar she could find. But word traveled fast in the industry. Marcus had blacklisted her. No one would hire her. She burned through her savings, fell behind on rent. Ate ramen for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Her landlord left threatening notes on her door. Her phone got shut off for non-payment. She sat in her tiny apartment one night, staring at the card Keanu had given her, turning it over and over in her hands. She could call, ask for help, but pride held her back. She didn't want to be someone who only reached out when she needed something. She wanted to prove she could make it on her own. So she kept pushing, kept applying, kept hoping. But every door kept closing. One afternoon, she was walking through the city handing out RA when she passed by Prestige. Through the window, she could see Marcus holding court at a table full of well-dressed guests, laughing, drinking expensive wine, living his life like nothing had happened, while she was barely surviving. The unfairness of it burned in her chest. But she kept walking, because she refused to let bitterness poison the kindness that had gotten her this far. That night, Elena sat in the public library, the only place with free Wi-Fi, and opened her laptop. She had one last idea. She started writing. Not a resume, not a cover letter, a story. About a waitress who chose kindness over comfort. About what it cost to do the right thing. About how the world punishes compassion and rewards cruelty. The words poured out of her like a dam breaking. She wrote for 3 hours straight, tears streaming down her face, her fingers flying across the keyboard. When she finished, she sat back and stared at the screen. It was raw. It was honest. It was real, and she had no idea what to do with it. But then her phone, which she'd managed to get reconnected with borrowed money, buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something told her to pick up. Hello.
Hi, is this Elena?
Yes. My name is Sarah. I'm calling on behalf of Keanu Reeves. Elena's heart stopped. He wanted me to reach out and see how you've been. Tears welled up in her eyes. She hadn't told him what happened, hadn't asked for help. But somehow he knew. I'm okay? She lied. He also wanted to know if you'd be interested in meeting him for coffee tomorrow. He has something he'd like to discuss with you. Elena could barely breathe. Yes, of course. I'd love to. Great. I'll text you the details. The call ended. Elena sat there in the quiet library, her hands shaking. She didn't know what was coming, but for the first time in 2 weeks, she felt something she'd almost forgotten: hope. The next day, Elena arrived at a quiet cafe in Silver Lake. She wore the nicest clothes she had, which weren't very nice, and tried to calm her racing heart. Keanu was already there, sitting by the window, 2 cups of coffee waiting. He stood when he saw her and smiled warmly. Elena, good to see you. You too? They sat down and for a moment neither spoke. Then Keanu said, I heard what happened. Elena's eyes widened. How? I have friends in the industry. When I asked about you, someone told me you'd been let go. She looked down at her hands. Yeah, it's been rough. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. Maybe not. But I can help. He slid a folder across the table. Elena opened it. Inside was a contract, a job offer. For a position at a production company Keanu had invested in. Salary 3 times what she was making at Prestige. Title assistant story developer. She looked up, stunned. Keanu, I can't. You can. You told me you wanted to be a writer. This is your chance. But I don't have experience. You have heart. You have perspective. You have integrity. That's more valuable than any resume. Tears streamed down her face. Why are you doing this? He leaned forward, his voice gentle. Because you saw me when no one else did. Because you chose kindness when it would have been easier to stay silent. And because the world needs more people like you in positions where they can make a difference. Elena covered her mouth. I don't know what to say. Just say yes. She laughed through her tears. Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Drop A in the comments if you believe in second chances. And tell me, have you ever had someone believe in you when no one else did? 6 months later, Elena was thriving. She worked alongside talented writers, developed story pitches, attended meetings with directors and producers. Her ideas were being heard. Her voice mattered. She'd moved into a better apartment, paid off her debts, started saving again. But more than that, she'd found her purpose. Every script she worked on, every story she helped develop, she asked herself one question. Does this show people's humanity? Does this remind us what we're capable of? And through it all, Keanu checked in on her, not as a boss but as a friend, a text here, a coffee meeting there. Always asking how she was doing, always encouraging her. For the first time in her life, Elena felt like she belonged somewhere. But one evening as she was leaving the office, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You ruined my life. Now I'll ruin yours. Her blood ran cold. She knew exactly who it was, Marcus. Over the next few weeks, strange things started happening. Her car was keyed in the parking lot. Deep scratches across both sides. Her apartment building received anonymous complaints about noise. Even though she was barely ever home, she started getting threatening emails from burner accounts. You think you're special now? You're nothing. Enjoy it while it lasts. It won't. You took everything from me. I'll make sure you pay. Someone even tried to hack into her work account, triggering security alerts. Elena reported it to the police, but without concrete evidence. There was little they could do. She didn't tell Keanu. She didn't want to burden him. She'd already gotten so much from him, A job, a future hope. She couldn't ask for more, so she dealt with it alone, changed her passwords, varied her routes home, looked over her shoulder constantly, but the messages kept coming. One night, as she was walking home from the grocery store, bags in hand, a black SUV pulled up beside her. The window rolled down. It was Marcus. His face was gaunt, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes. Prestige had been struggling. Reviews had tanked. Staff had quit. He'd lost everything he thought made him somebody. And he blamed her. Enjoying your new life, Elena. Her heart raced. Leave me alone. You think you're special. You think he actually cares about you. She started walking faster. The SUV crawled alongside her. You took everything from me. My reputation. My respect. And now I'm going to take everything from you. Drive away. Now or I'm calling the police. He laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. Go ahead. Tell them what? That I'm driving on a public street. Then he sped off, tires screeching, leaving her shaking on the sidewalk. Elena made it to her apartment and locked the door behind her. She slid down against it, her whole body trembling. For 6 months, she'd tried to handle this alone. But it was getting worse, and she was scared. She pulled out her phone and, hands shaking, called the one person she knew would help, Keanu. It's Elena. I need to talk to you. The next morning, they met at the same cafe where he'd given her the job offer. She told him everything. The messages. The vandal-harassment. The confrontation. Keanu listened in silence, his jaw tight, his eyes dark with something she'd never seen before. Anger. Not loud or explosive, but controlled. Focused. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'm handling this. Keanu, you don't have to. Yes, I do. He's angry. Maybe he'll stop. Elena. He leaned forward, his voice firm but kind. This isn't about anger. This is about control. And people like him don't stop until someone makes them. But what can we? You let me worry about that. I need you to promise me something. What? If he contacts you again, in any way, you tell me immediately. No more handling this alone. Understood. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Okay. He reached across the table and held her hand. You did the right thing telling me. And I promise you this ends now. 2 days later, Marcus received a visitor at Prestige, a lawyer, carrying a cease and desist order, and a lawsuit for harassment, stalking, defamation, attempted sabotage. Marcus's face went white as he read the documents. You can't do this? We already did, the lawyer said calmly. And if you contact Ms. Elena Rodriguez again in any form, we'll pursue criminal charges. We have documentation of everything, every message, every email, security footage of you following her, witness testimony. This is ridiculous. She's nobody. She's somebody who knows her rights. And she has representation. The lawyer placed another document on the table. This is a restraining order. 500 feet at all times. Violation results in immediate arrest. Marcus slumped into a chair, his face in his hands. Who's behind this? The lawyer smiled slightly. Someone who believes in protecting people who can't protect themselves. And then he left. But Keanu wasn't done. Because while Marcus had been busy tormenting Elena, Keanu had been busy gathering evidence. Security footage from Elena's apartment building. Digital forensics on the threatening emails. Witness testimonies from former Prestige employees. Within a week, the full picture emerged. Marcus hadn't just targeted Elena. He'd been abusive to his staff for years. Wage theft. Verbal harassment. Creating a hostile work environment. Several former employees came forward with their own stories once they knew someone was finally listening. The restaurant was placed under investigation by the labor board. News outlets picked up the story. Prestigious restaurant under fire for workplace abuse. Former employees speak out against toxic owner. Investors pulled out. Reservations dried up. The landlord declined to renew the lease. Within 3 weeks, Prestige was forced to close. Marcus lost everything. And through it all, Keanu stayed quiet. No press releases. No interviews. No taking credit. He simply made sure justice was served. One evening, Elena received a call from Sarah again. Hi, Elena. Keanu wanted me to let you know it's over. Marcus signed the agreement. He won't be contacting you again. Elena exhaled deeply, relief flooding through her. Thank you. Please tell him I don't know how to thank him. He doesn't want thanks. He just wants you to keep doing what you're doing. There was a pause. Oh, and one more thing. There's a property that just became available. A restaurant space. Downtown. And Keanu thought you might be interested. Elena frowned. Interested? In what way? In buying it. Her heart stopped. What? I don't have that kind of money. He's arranged financing. And he has a few investors who believe in your vision. If you're interested, he thinks you should turn it into something that reflects who you are. Elena's mind raced. What property is it? Sarah paused. It's prestige. Type JSTC in the comments if you believe karma is real. And tell me what would wow you do with that restaurant. Elena stood in the empty shell of what used to be prestige. The crystal chandeliers were gone. The marble floors were scuffed. The white tablecloths had been stripped away. All that remained was potential. She walked slowly through the space, her footsteps echoing. 6 months ago, she'd been humiliated here, fired, blacklisted, made to feel worthless, and now she owned it. But she didn't want revenge. She wanted redemption. Not for herself, for everyone who'd ever been made to feel small. She pulled out her phone and called Keanu. I want to do it. But not as prestige. As something different. What are you thinking? She smiled. I'm thinking Rosy's place. There was a pause on the other end. Then a warm laugh. Perfect. Over the next 3 months, Elena transformed the space. She kept the bones of the restaurant, the high ceilings, the large windows, but changed everything else. Out went the cold marble and crystal. In came warm wood tables, soft lighting, art from local creators on the walls. She created a menu that was approachable. Delicious. Affordable. Not cheap but accessible. A place where everyone could feel welcome. And she had one non-negotiable rule. Every person who walks through that door is treated with dignity. No exceptions. She hired back some of the staff from Prestige, the ones Marcus had mistreated. The quiet cook who'd been yelled at daily. The dishwasher who'd been paid under the table. The hostess who'd been harassed. She gave them fair wages. Benefits. Respect. And she hired others too. People who'd been overlooked. People who just needed a chance. A formerly incarcerated man trying to rebuild his life. A single mother who needed flexible hours. A veteran struggling with PTSD. Elena didn't just see their RA-summes, she saw their humanity. On opening night, the place was packed. Friends, family, former coworkers, people from the neighborhood. Local press showed up. Food bloggers, community leaders. But the most important guest was sitting quietly in a corner booth. Keanu. He'd insisted on not making a fuss, but Elena wouldn't have it any other way. When there was a brief lull, she walked over and slid into the seat across from him. Thank you. For everything. He shook his head. You did this. I just opened a door. You walked through it. Still, I wouldn't be here without you. And I wouldn't have been reminded what goodness looks like without you. They clinked glasses, sparkling cider for her, water for him. And as the night went on, Elena looked around the room, at the laughter, the warmth, the love, and realized something profound. This wasn't just a restaurant. It was proof that kindness could win. But the story doesn't end there, because a week after opening, something unexpected happened. A woman walked in, mid-50s, tired eyes, worn coat. She stood nervously by the door, clutching a small purse. Elena noticed immediately and walked over. Welcome to Rosy's. Table for one. The woman hesitated. I don't have much money. I just thought maybe I heard this place was different. Elena smiled gently. You're in the right place. Come with me. She led her to a cozy booth and handed her a menu. Order whatever you like. It's on the house tonight. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Why would you do that? Because someone once did it for me. As the woman ate, Elena noticed her glancing around nervously, as if waiting for someone to tell her she didn't belong. When she finished, Elena sat down across from her. What's your name? Margaret. Nice to meet you, Margaret. I'm Elena. They talked. Margaret had lost her job 8 months ago, lost her apartment, was staying at a shelter. She'd walk past the restaurant every night, too afraid to come in. But tonight, hunger and hope had pushed her through the door. Elena listened, her heart aching. When Margaret stood to leave, Elena handed her a small envelope. What's this? A meal card. Good for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Whenever you need it. Margaret broke down. I don't deserve this. Elena reached across and held her hand a yes. You do. We all do. Over the following weeks, Margaret became a regular. She'd come in for meals, sometimes to just sit and read. Elena would check on her, make sure she was okay. And slowly Margaret started to rebuild. Elena helped her create a rade-summe, connected her with job resources, gave her hope. 3 months later, Margaret walked in wearing business casual clothes and a huge smile. I got a job. Administrative assistant at a law firm. I start Monday. Elena hugged her tight, tears in both their eyes. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. You just needed someone to believe in you. Margaret pulled back, her voice shaking. You didn't just feed me, Elena. You reminded me I was still a person, that I still mattered. Word spread, not through advertising or social media campaigns, through stories. People telling people about the restaurant where everyone was treated like family, where kindness was the currency that mattered most. A year after opening, Rosy's place had become more than just successful. It had become a movement. One afternoon, a journalist from a major publication reached out. She wanted to write a feature story, not just about the food, about the mission, the heart, the story behind it. Elena agreed. The article was published 2 weeks later. Rosy's Place, the restaurant that remembers we're all human. It went viral. Thousands of shares, hundreds of comments. People from across the country reached out. We need a place like this in our city. This is what the world needs more of. Thank you for reminding us what matters. News outlets picked it up. Local TV, national morning shows, podcasts. Elena was invited to speak at events about compassion in business, about building success on kindness instead of cruelty. And then, one morning, she received an email that made her cry. It was from a major publishing house. They wanted her to write a book about her journey, about kindness, about second chances. She called Keanu immediately. Did you have anything to do with this? He laughed. I may have mentioned your name to a friend. But they reached out because of you. Elena couldn't stop smiling. I don't even know where to start. Start with the truth. That's all anyone needs. The book took her 8 months to write. She poured everything into it, the pain, the hope, the lessons. She called it The Kindness Ripple, How One Act Changed Everything. It opened with the night she chased Keanu into the cold. It included Margaret's story, the staff's stories from customers whose lives had been touched, and it ended with a challenge. What ripple will you create? When it was published, it became an instant bestseller, not because it was celebrity-driven, but because it was human. People from all walks of life wrote to her, sharing their own stories of being overlooked, judged, dismissed, and how one act of kindness had changed their path. Elena realized something powerful. She wasn't just telling her story. She was giving voice to millions who'd felt unseen. On the 1-year anniversary of Rosy's Place, Elena hosted a special event, free meals for anyone who needed them, live music from local artists, art displays from neighborhood creators, a celebration of community, the line wrapped around the block, families, elderly folks, teenagers, homeless individuals, business professionals, all standing together, all equal, all welcome. And in the middle of it all, standing quietly near the back, was Keanu. Elena spotted him and walked over, weaving through the crowd. You came. Wouldn't miss it. She hugged him tightly. I owe you everything. He pulled back and looked her in the eyes. You don't owe me anything. You took a risk. You chose kindness. You built this. That's all you. But you believed in me, because you were worth believing in. They stood there, surrounded by laughter and warmth, and Elena felt a peace she'd never known. This was what success really looked like. Not wealth, not status, but impact. Later that night, as the last guests were leaving, an older man approached her. He looked familiar, but she couldn't place him. Elena. Yes. My name is Thomas. I used to work at Prestige. I was one of the cooks. Her eyes widened. I remember you. You were always kind. I just wanted to say thank you. For what? For standing up. For leaving. For showing us that we didn't have to accept being treated that way. He paused, his voice shaking. After you left, 5 of us quit. We all found better jobs, better lives, healthier environments. And it started because you had the courage to walk away. Elena's throat tightened. I had no idea. You probably never will know everyone you've impacted, but I wanted you to hear it from at least one of us. He shook her hand and left. Elena stood there, tears streaming down her face, realizing the full weight of what Keanu had once told her. Kindness doesn't just change one life. It ripples outward, and her ripple had become a wave. Type RIPPLE if you believe one person can make a difference. Let's flood the comments with hope. So what do we take away from this? That fame doesn't define character. That wealth doesn't determine worth. That the way you treat people when no one's watching says everything about who you really are. Marcus had power, money, status, but he had no kindness. And in the end, that was his downfall. Elena had nothing but her heart, and that became her foundation. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Kindness is not weakness. It takes courage to be kind in a world that rewards cruelty. It takes strength to see someone struggling and choose to help, even when it costs you something. Elena didn't chase after Keanu for recognition. She didn't do it for a reward. She didn't even know what would happen. She did it because it was right. And that's the difference between people who succeed temporarily and people who build legacies. Think about the people in your life. The ones who saw you when you felt invisible. The ones who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. The ones who gave you a chance when no one else would. That's the kind of person the world needs more of. And maybe, just maybe, that person can be you. Keanu could have ignored the disrespect and moved on. But he stayed humble. He stayed kind. He stayed human. Elena could have stayed silent to keep her job, but she chose courage over comfort. Marcus could have apologized and changed, but he chose pride over growth. Every single day we're faced with these choices. To be kind or cruel, to lift others up or tear them down, to see people or look past them. The choice is always ours. And here's the most beautiful part of this story. Elena didn't just change her own life. She changed Margaret's. She changed Thomas's and the other staff members who found the courage to leave toxic situations. She changed every person who walked through the doors of Rosy's place and felt, maybe for the first time in a long time, that they mattered. One act of kindness created a ripple that touched hundreds, maybe thousands of lives. And it all started with a choice. A choice to run out into the cold. A choice to see someone's humanity when the world only saw their appearance. A choice to care when it would have been easier not to. So wherever you are right now, whoever you are, whatever you're going through, you have the power to be that person for someone else. You don't need money. You don't need fame. You don't need permission. You just need to see people. Really see them. And treat them the way you'd want to be treated if the roles were reversed. Because here's the truth, we're all one bad day, one lost job, one unexpected crisis away from being the person who needs help. And when that day comes, and for many of us it will, we'll hope someone like Elena is there. Someone who sees past the surface. Someone who remembers that we're all human. Someone who chooses kindness. Before we go, I want to hear from you. What part of this story hit you the hardest? Was it when Marcus kicked Keanu out? When Elena chased after him in the cold? When she got fired for doing the right thing? When Keanu gave her the job? When she bought prestige and transformed it? When she helped Margaret? Or when Thomas revealed how her courage inspired others? Drop a comment and let me know. And tell me where you're watching from. I want to personally thank every single one of you. If this story moved you, do me a favor. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been overlooked. Someone who's struggling. Someone who's lost hope. Someone who just needs a reminder that goodness still exists. Because stories like this don't just entertain. They inspire. They heal. They remind us what we're capable of when we choose love over fear. And to everyone who's ever been judged, dismissed, or made to feel small, you matter. Your story matters. Your kindness matters. Your voice matters. Don't let the world convince you otherwise. The Marcus Holts of the world will always exist. People who measure worth by wealth and status. But so will the Elenas. So will the Keenas. So will the Margarets and the Thomases. People who understand that true power is silent. That true respect is earned through how you treat others. That true success is measured by the lives you touch, not the money you make. Stay humble, stay kind, stay brave. And never underestimate the power of a single act of compassion. Because you never know whose life you might change. You never know whose hope you might restore. You never know what ripple you might create that touches hundreds of people you'll never meet. Stories of hope, of redemption, of courage, of the human spirit rising above the darkness. So make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, and stick around. We're building a community of people who believe in something bigger than themselves. People who believe kindness is strength. People who believe we can still make this world a little bit better. And I'm honored to have you here. Type "Huppy" in the comments if this story gave you something to hold on to. Type "Rosy" if you believe kindness is strength. Type "RPLE" if you're ready to be the change someone else needs. And type "BLEV" if you still have faith in humanity. Let's flood this comment section with love. The world needs it now more than ever. Let's show each other that good people still exist. That